views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Open BXRx, BronxNet special coverage providing you the latest information that matters to you during COVID-19, the coronavirus, and now through social justice actions and civil unrest taking place nationwide and here in the Bronx. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, and today is Tuesday, September 1st. Coming up, One Book, One Bronx is a book club now meeting virtually via Zoom. Stay tuned to learn what books are on this season's reading list and how you can join. Then, the eviction moratorium has been extended until October 1st. We'll get some housing updates from Northern Manhattan is not for sale. After that, young filmmakers have been on the front lines of local actions. We'll speak to a local Bronx filmmaker to learn about his peaceful protest documentary. And local running crew, Bronx Soul, joins us to discuss their socially distanced run and walk events and more. So please, stick around. Open BXRx starts now. Welcome to Open BXRx on BronxNet. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, inviting you to get social with us at BronxNet TV on Instagram and Twitter, and BronxNet Community Television on Facebook. As we continue to social distance, reading groups have moved to Zoom, Twitter, and Instagram to bring readers together. One Book, One Bronx by the Literary Freedom Project is a book club building community even through the pandemic. Joining us now to discuss is Ron Kavanaugh, Executive Director of the Literary Freedom Project. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great day.
Of course. And first, to start off, for anyone who's not familiar, please tell us more about the Literary Freedom Project and your mission.
Sure. Literary Freedom Project is a Bronx-based literary nonprofit. We started in about 2002 with the goal of using literature to build community. So our goal is to really bring people into our different spaces and programs and intertwine literature with community engagement, social justice, women empowerment. There are multiple subjects that we kind of focus on, but all using literature as a base.
And what is the One Book, One Bronx Club, and how does it work, and who can participate in it?
One Book, One Bronx is a book club based, well, now that everything's on Zoom, we're not really based in the Bronx, but started here in the Bronx, again, with the idea of bringing our community together. I used to meet people individually, and they all used to kind of tell me about the books that they're reading or the books they wanted to read or not being able to read because they were so isolated. And I thought a book club would be a good idea to try to break that isolation, but also to build a new community around books and reading.
And Ron, the book club is for those who are interested, anyone really. You have a bunch of books behind you, but they're also for people who want to get into reading books as well, for anyone.
Yeah, the great thing about this book club is you can actually come even if you have not read the book. What we're really interested in are conversations around the book. So if we are reading, our next book is Bodega Dreams by Ernesto Quinones. And we're really interested in people who have those kind of like experiences, kind of growing up in urban environments, dealing with gentrification. The book is really about gentrification, dealing about gentrification, community overdevelopment or misdevelopment. So anyone can come in and have that conversation. We encourage you to read the book, of course, and we meet weekly. So we make it really easy for people to kind of set us into their schedule. But yeah, that's our book club, is really more than just a book club.
And how has COVID-19 impacted the usual programming that you hold in community? How has this year's first book club gone? And what challenges, if any, did the program face?
Yeah, so, at the beginning of the year, back in January, when we were still in a physical space, we usually meet in, we actually meet in two locations, Bronx Art Space and Casita Maria Center for Arts and Education. And everything was going fine. We were getting anywhere from 20 to 30 people every week to come out. In like March, April, we moved on to Zoom. And we've seen audiences as large as 80 people attend our book club. And those people are coming now because of Zoom. They come from all over the country. So when we meet in person, most people, although people come from Brooklyn and Westchester, when we meet in person, now people are joining us from California, the Carolinas, Florida, Ohio. I think Texas, we have somebody in Texas also. So that's the one difference. You know, the interactions are the same, the commitment is the same. What has changed is how wide our audience has gotten because of Zoom and accessing on social media.
That is amazing. I'm really glad to hear that it's opening up to many.
It is, it's been kind of, you know, it's funny because when the quarantine first happened, I actually was thinking of stopping the book club because I didn't know how long this would last, you know, how to navigate Zoom, whether I wanted to commit more energy to that. But it was actually book club members who wanted to continue. And once they wanted to continue, it just felt like it was really necessary for our community to stay connected through books and discussions.
That is a beautiful thing. Now, Ron, is there an overarching theme for this season's reading list curation? What are some of the books that folks can expect to read? You mentioned Bodega Dreams by Ernesto Quiñones. What are some of the other books and why were they selected?
So every year we try to mix up our selection of books. What we use as our foundation are the demographics of the Bronx. Right. So we focus on books by Latin and writers of African descent. We also focus on fiction, nonfiction, poetry, as long as they're writers of African descent or Latin descent. So sort of keeping that in mind, we're reading Bodega Dreams. After that, we're reading Jim Crow, the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Then after that, we're reading a biography by Saeed Jones. So we try to really mix it up. Later on in the year, we'll be reading poetry by a Trinidadian writer. There's a young woman who was on, she's from the Bronx. She was on Orange is the New Black. Yeah. I cannot remember her name. She was one of the stars, and she's from the Bronx. Sylvan is her last name.
Oof, I forgot her name too.
Yeah, but anyway, she has a biography out also, and we're going to be reading that. So it's called My Sister. Her sister is a trans woman, and she's written about growing up with her sister. So as soon as that name comes to me, I'll shoot it back to you.
You'll loop back over. Yes. I'm sorry, I can't help. I can't help you with the with the rebound there. So one of the One Book, One Bronx taglines is books build community. How do book clubs help us engage in discussions on community building even through this pandemic?
You know, that's almost all we do. Like the book club is kind of a ruse for just getting people together and building discussions around our community, around the issues that affect our community. We try to use the book as a platform to build greater conversations. So when you come to our book club, it is not a traditional book club in the sense that you just talk about the book. Mm-hmm. We don't really care if you talk about the book or not. I mean, we start from the book. But many people want to go off in tangents because the subject matter of the book is the most important thing. It's not so much that you sort of stay restricted and bound to discussing the book, but that you participate in the subject matter of the book. That's the most important thing.
Got it. And now the Literary Freedom Project also develops amazing lesson plans and workshops for educators through Mosaic Magazine. Please tell us more about these educational resources and the most recent Black Lives Matter lesson plan. Where can teachers access these plans?
So one, you can find it on our website. If you just go to literaryfreedom.org, follow the links, you can find the lesson plans. again, they were created to give educators a way to connect to their students. So often, there are issues like Black Lives Matter, the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. That will be our next lesson plan. We're doing one on Breonna Taylor's life. Teachers and parents, who are the first teachers, they were really looking for resources of how they can connect what they're doing in the classroom to their students. And we just thought it would be ideal if we started to create lesson plans for these educators. And again, it's the same connection, it's the same identity of building a platform for the community to kind of build on their own knowledge. So on the one hand, like One Book, One Bronx, it speaks directly to people, to parents or to participants, whereas our lesson plans speak directly to teachers. And we hope that those teachers will bring the lesson plans in the classroom and impart that information onto the students and parents. So.
Sounds amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ron. So my co-producer shared that the author's name is Selenis Leiva from Orange is the New Black. So there we go.
Thank you.
When is the next book club taking place? When is the next virtual book club taking place? And do people still have time to sign up for it?
You can sign up right now, onebookonebronx.com. It starts September 16th. And when it starts, you should purchase the book now and be ready to read, I think, pages 1 through 47 that first week. So it's Bodega Dreams by Ernesto Quinones. We're gonna try to invite Ernesto to participate in the book club. We've been having really good luck that way. We're having more and more authors participate with the book club, which kind of adds a different dimension to the book club, because so often we're actually kind of guessing what the author had in mind. Mm-hmm. And to have the author there and explain is really a great dynamic.
And it's taking place at 7 p.m., correct? So if you're getting out of work, if you work virtually, then you still have time to, sit with your book and join the virtual book club.
And also, you don't have to be there exactly at 7 p.m. So don't think like if you don't get in at 7, you won't be allowed in. You can come in anytime you want to into the book club, even if it's for the last 15 minutes.
Sounds amazing. Thank you, Ron. Before we go, how can people support the Literary Freedom Project and One Book, One Bronx?
You can join our programs. That's the best thing to do. Of course, you can give a donation. We're a nonprofit, 501c3. Just go to literaryfreedom.org. But really the best thing to do is participate.
Thank you again, Ron, for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Folks, again, for more information, you can visit onebookonebronx.com or literaryfreedom.org. And you can also follow at Literary Freedom Project on social media. We'll be right back.
It looks bleak. It feels bleak. But the city isn't shut down because our public services keep working. In spite of, and in the face of, the dangers, we can count on them. And to keep them working and funded, now and in the future, we need to be counted. Self-respond now to the 2020 census at my2020census.gov.
COVID-19 has forced New York City into a pummeling economic crisis, leaving many residents housing insecure and unable to afford their rents for obvious reasons, such as unemployment due to job loss and layoffs. Throughout the pandemic, Northern Manhattan is Not for Sale has been advocating for rent cancellations and fighting for housing equity in Black and Brown communities. Joining us now to share more about the recent eviction moratorium extension and more is housing activist and candidate for New York City Council District 7, Lena Melendez. Lena, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Of course. To start off, Lena, can you tell us more about Northern Manhattan is Not for Sale?
Northern Manhattan is Not for Sale is a coalition of organizations that includes small businesses, churches, tenant associations, Met Council, RENA. There's a lot of different organizations that have come together from the community. Gotcha. And they really met. That group was born out of the fight against the rezoning.
Mm-hmm. for sharing. So as we know, the eviction moratorium has been extended until October 1st. Can you help us explain what this means for tenants now?
So this does not help people who were already in eviction proceedings prior to COVID-19, right? Housing courts are moving forward with these eviction proceedings prior. So, however, courts are closed to eviction proceedings that were started March 17th and after. So state court officials on Wednesday extended, state court officials, not the governor, have extended this moratorium until October 1st. It's a freeze on residential evictions, does not touch commercial evictions. So the governor's universal eviction moratorium ended June 22nd, and thereafter the moratorium he proposed would last until August 22nd, would allow some tenants to fall through the cracks. So it's really been up to the courts to extend and kick the can down the road.
Gotcha. Housing organizers and activists such as yourself have been rallying and fighting for further protections in regards to the universal eviction moratorium, canceling rent and mortgages, and housing the homeless. Can you share more about these issues and demands and why they're important to, happen now?
We're fighting to level the playing field, right? The rising costs of rental units have risen exponentially while wages remain the same. Rampant corruption made possible by individual apartment improvements, just corruption left and right. Landlords were able to say that they made renovations, and the inspectors weren't coming to check, and they did not have to produce a single solitary receipt from the things that they said that they bought for those improvements. That's just like writing somebody a blank check and say, pay yourself whatever you think, right? Eliminating the 20% vacancy bonus, that was really important because that was incentivizing landlords to turn those apartments over. And for decades, right, the real estate industry has been benefiting from tax breaks like the 421A and the 485A, which funnel billions of dollars to corporate landlords every year. That money could be better spent in building truly affordable housing to working class and essential workers in New York. All of this was going on prior to the pandemic, right? This is prior to the pandemic. We were in hot water, right? And now it's like the water boiled out. There's no pan. We are on fire. Then we get the worst pandemic since 1912. The government declared a state of emergency in New York, and all non-essential businesses were ordered to close down, right? So more than half of the jobs in the city come from the small business sector.
Right.
Like, really, like right now, we have, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Thank you for breaking that down. So recently, Northern Manhattan's Not For Sale joined, you mentioned the billionaire landlords. You joined the People Over Profits March on Billionaire Landlords. What occurred at this march, and what and why is it important that people mobilize during these times for their housing rights?
The People Over Profits March on Billionaire Landlords were demonstrating tenant power. There are more tenants than landlords. They spoke about the pandemic of racism and the pandemic of the COVID pandemic, right? And the fact that the pandemic has really just has really peeled back that thin veil of denial that, oh, there's nothing wrong here. We don't have a race issue. We don't have a class struggle here, Yes, we do. And it showed up when more Black and brown folks died than any other group, times 4, right? 4 times the rate of deaths in Black and brown communities than any other group. That's just unacceptable. It's a it's a responsibility of the government to take care of all its people. 250,000 empty luxury apartments in New York City. Fancy hotels are empty. Tourism, has come to a halt. These hotels are empty. This is a class and race issue, right? The government doesn't want to give housing to people that are homeless. But we're in the middle of a pandemic. So we don't, right? They said something at that march. That's the Karina Reyes said, oh my God, I have it written down.
And Karina is one of the assembly members here in the Bronx, so she's standing behind the movements, or in front of the movements as well, side by side with the activists.
Yes, she said the basis of a contact and tracing program relies on people having stable housing. How do we quarantine folks if they have nowhere to live? How do we contact people if they're not living in the same place, if they're evicted? How do we contact and trace? We won't be able to control the virus. That's the bottom line.
That is a great point. Now, Lena, as a candidate for New York City Council District 7 and a housing activist, another huge issue that you've advocated against is the inward rezoning and gentrification happening in surrounding areas. For someone who may not be familiar, what stage are these plans in, and what risks do residents face if these plans go forth?
The inward rezoning. It was passed over the fierce objection of the community after Northern Manhattan is not for sale and other tenant organizations mounted a huge resistance, trying everything from meeting with Dennis Rodriguez to occupying his office, to having a block party in the poorest street in Inwood to raise the consciousness of the community, marching around the commercial U, civil disobedience, and the inward rezoning was passed. I mean, a faction of, it's just 10 people were arrested. I was one of them. I mean, how much more? Even to the very last vote, right? We went down to City Hall. They threw us out. It was dramatic, and yet they keep looking at us like they keep sharing the same sound bites, right? Oh, we're going to bring this amount of money, and this money for arts, and money for STEM programs, and money for this and money for that. But who's going to still be there to enjoy all of those perks, right? After they devastate the Latino and Black community that lives in Inwood. A faction of the Northern Manhattan is not for sale, called the Inwood Legal Action Group, got together and rounded up plaintiffs that had lost their jobs and their homes as a result, and their businesses as a result of speculative investors. The case was won on the merit that the community was ignored during the ULURP process, and they asked for in the environmental impact study, they asked the city to do 8 studies, part of which was, one of the most important pieces was the racial impact study. And the city said, well, it's not in the seeker manual, so we don't have to do it, right? We asked them what the impact of this rezoning would be on women and minority-owned businesses. It's not the same thing. It's not in the seeker manual. We don't have to do it. And the community was ignored. We got nothing, and the developers got everything they wanted, right? So then now here comes, we take it to the Supreme Court. Judge Verna Saunders heard what we were talking about. The inward rezoning was annulled. The rezoning on the city appealed, and then they won in the appellate court. So the city overturned the Supreme Court Judge Verna Saunders' decision. And so here we are. It's going to be really difficult, but we have to try everything at our disposal to fight against this rezoning, because it's going to result in massive displacement of Black and Latino residents from uptown, right? Loss of small businesses and who we are considered who is and who is not considered of economic value to the city. The construction of these tall luxury towers, greater density and creating more pollution. And, like if you have a 6-story building and in this place you build a 30-story building, the sheer amount of human waste just multiplies. Where are you going to put all of that, right? Garbage, water usage. All of these are things that have to be considered. A lot of the luxury towers want to put these luxury towers around the waterfronts, in front of the parks.
Right, for the nice views and everything. Yeah, 15-story view. Yeah.
Right, and then the housing, it's like it's going to build a wall around Inwood. It's the northernmost tip of Manhattan, and then the people living in the middle of that are going to be, they're going to be removed one by one as the rents go up.
Right. And a lot of long-time residents, they see it and they say, we deserve nice things in the neighborhood, and they don't think that maybe that niceness will lead to the displacement, right?
Oh, but even if they don't get displaced, even if we do not get displaced, think about the sheer numbers of people that are going to be added, the people that are going to be able to afford these luxury towers, right? If you're going to quadruple and quintuple the amount of people coming into an area, and even if not one person is displaced, it's the amount of people that are coming that are wealthier will subvert the political power in Inwood, you see. So the culture is going to be bleached out. We already see it with all these noise complaints. Oh, they're too loud, blah, blah, blah,
We're used to this.
You know what I'm saying? As a baby, I fell asleep to all of that. I fell asleep to gunshots in the night. I grew up in Washington Heights. I'm okay. I was able to learn just fine. I went to an Ivy League school. Hey, I was able to do that even with all of the noise.
And all the challenges. Thank you, Lena, for sharing. Before we go, how can people support these movements, and how can they stay in touch with Northern Manhattan is Not for Sale?
Northern Manhattan is Not for Sale. Look them up on Facebook, and I believe on Instagram. Just check on their Facebook page for events and actions that they sponsor, and they'll go, and then attend an event.
Get behind the movements and, stand with people in the fight for housing justice and equity in our entire, the Bronx, Manhattan, wherever you are. We're all facing very challenging times during this time. So thank you again, Lena, for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Folks, you can follow at Northern Manhattan is Not for Sale on Instagram at n_Manhattan_not4sale. We'll be right back.
With coronavirus spreading, people at higher risk must take extra precautions. You're at higher risk if you're over 65 or if you have an underlying medical condition. Please visit coronavirus.gov for more information.
Welcome back. As youth continue to organize and mobilize for Black lives, filmmakers have taken to protest to authentically capture the voices and faces of local movements. Joining us to discuss his peaceful protest documentary is filmmaker Jamar Alphonso da Costa, aka Ness the Creator. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So just to start, can you tell us about yourself and your upbringing here in the Bronx, and how long have you been a filmmaker?
Okay, so yeah, I'm from the South Bronx, Castle Hill area, and I'm like I just like to make things. I like to tell stories. Most definitely from my perspective, since I feel like that's the most purest form. That's the most, like, if I would like, I feel like we gotta cater to our perspectives, since that's the most unique color in the world. One of the most unique colors in the world, our color. Um, I'm from. I've been a filmmaker since I went to the cinema school. It's the only film high school in the country, I believe, where they have film as the curriculum, and I've just been creating since then. My passion grew and grew through like the courses Mr. Steeble gave us, and like the short films we had to create. That was part of the curriculum. And then I joined Ghetto Film School, like my junior year. And it was basically what we done in TCS, but even more specific, just like extra film class, just creating films, telling stories. And I graduated that. I did it one more time, and then I continued from that, and I sort of found my passion with mixing film and music with my band called Studio Period. I just like to capture live performances, singing, but try to tell a story through it. But also at the end of the day, I'm still a filmmaker. I still like to tell stories. So when a whole movement so powerful is going on, I'm seeing this. We're all locked up in quarantine, and I'm seeing this. I'm like, okay, I have to go out and capture this story, just get whatever I need to get and put it together and tell my perspective of what I see.
Yeah, that was my next question. So please tell us about your peaceful protest documentary and what you feel is your role as a filmmaker during these tough times.
The peaceful protest documentary, I mean, we all saw it. They were screaming out their names, those whose past names throughout the streets of New York. We all saw it. In the peaceful protest documentary, I really wanted to document it from the interior, since a lot of what we see on the media is a lot of exterior stuff. You don't really see people following. And if you even do that, I feel like it's not showing the full thing. It's not focusing on what's really going on. Like from being inside the protest and like recognizing it, the first thing I noticed is like, yo, all of us is like 18 and around. It's like 18 around. Like, you look back in history of like movements like the Million Man March back in DC, right? And it's just like, you look at the pictures and I'm like, that's like older people just like in their like late 20s, yada yada. Like, definitely there's some probably 18-year-olds, but it's just like, it's a lot of older people. But here, the majority was people like college and younger, coming out to like contribute to the same energy. And what I saw was the leadership, the organization, and like the dedication. It's like, and at the same, like, I have to remind them, like, yo, we're 18, like, and adults is looking at us like it's like the kids leading the adults in this. And that was the most beautiful thing I ever seen, like, to see how much power we have, because the protests really showed, and like a couple of scenes that I put in that piece of protest showed how much, like, we shut down blocks and blocks and blocks. Like, it's insane how far the march led. And like, we outnumbered the opposing, but we kept it. I feel like the majority kept it peaceful. But what I also want to show bring to light in the documentary, that yes, you gotta understand, there are some people that came here for good. There's some people that came here to fight for what's right, but a small percent came for the BS. A small percent came for the foolishness, came for the come up, came for the opportunity for destruction. And I just want to, like, it's the beauty of show rather than telling. I want to show it, rather than say, here's my opinion, since who knows how fed up some of those people were. Maybe they wanted to cause destruction because something happened with them and they had to get the anger out. I don't know, but I'm showing it. I'm showing the reality. The majority of people protested, didn't do nothing. Like, you saw how it's not as chaotic as some may seem or make it. It's not as rebellious. It's not as punk. But we did. But at the same time, we showed, we did shut down the streets. We did shut down the streets by the thousands.
Right. And, the theme that I did notice is that you filmed a lot of youth during these protests and during these movements, not only doing protesting, but also educating and doing community cleanups. So what is the importance of having Black and brown youth at the forefront of some of these movements? What's the importance of that?
It's to show that the importance of that is to show, like, hey, we are doing something. Like, yo, we care. It's like, we're not just gonna let stuff. We're not just gonna let this foolishness, this hate just happen to us. We show, yo, we're doing something about it peacefully. We're doing something. It's showing that we know how to handle situations, and we can patch ourselves up back together. You feel me? It's show like we're able to do it. It's show movement. It's show like change. We're making the change from inside. We're not having people do it. We don't need people to do it for us. We're doing it for us. You feel me? And the person that did that, her name is really real. She's from Brooklyn, and I followed her to help her, just to help her like clean up and also document it to share it to the world, And she continued to do that cleanup and community events, community what was the word? Not events, community
initiatives.
Yeah, and she helped put community initiatives together to help bring it back. So you see, like, it matters. We're not just gonna bat our eye. We're not just gonna let things happen. We're showing that we care, even if it's people that look like us that cause some of the destruction. It showed that we care. It showed that there's people peacefully patching us back together, peacefully.
I think you did a wonderful job at showing that in your film. So thank you for that. I also wanted to ask you how many actions you attended throughout the film, because I noticed that there were different events, different protests that you filmed.
I feel like I went to around 4 or 5. But some people went every single day.
Yeah.
I'm not some people, I'm not some people. Because it's like, it's really like, it gets shady out there. It gets shady out there, and like it gets really tiring walking miles like throughout. Like I remember the first day where we crossed the Brooklyn Bridge. That was my first day going. I was with my brother. It's like I like the power, bro. Like we started from 125th all the way till actually they started from 125th. I caught them at 86. And we went all the way to Bowling Green, I think it's called.
Yeah.
To Bowling Green. And it was a standoff. It was a standoff at the Brooklyn Bridge. It was a standoff. They didn't think they was going to cross. First, there was cops just standing there. They were standing there like they were covering the walking part. They were covering the walking part, thinking we're going to do that. And we're just like, yo, who's going to make the first step? They got batons and stuff. I'm like, they got batons and stuff. And we just like had a consensus. Yo, we're going through the one that's the cars where the cars are coming to us. We're going the other way. We're gonna do that, and we just did that. And the cops was like, "Oh my gosh, these kids!" I'm like, they couldn't say something, but I'm just like, I know some of them were proud. You feel me? Like I know they can't, but I know they're proud. And like we stopped traffic. We stopped the Brooklyn Bridge. That's when it clicked. Like, yo, this is power. This is insane. And as we're going past the Brooklyn Bridge, cars are stopped. Like, so it's like we're going in between cars and such. And I feel like on social media, on Twitter, you hear people saying, "Oh my gosh, these kids are rebellious. People have work, this, that, and the third," thinking, "Oh, they're thinking we're the bad guys." But in reality, I wish I caught this. As we were going past, all we heard was beep, beep, beep.
clapping and applauding. Yeah, like
Only.
from the community.
Only. Simple. Only. That's all we heard. And that's why I showed it. So people don't think, oh, it's ignorance. That we know. People think, oh, we're stopping child, we're causing a disruption. No. All we got was, that's all we got. All we got. We had helicopters over us, like we had 5-star on GTA, like helicopters everywhere. And it was like, yo, this is so insane. But it's just like, you knew you were safe because there was 1,000 other people next to you doing the same thing. I feel like we really felt what power is. Power isn't like this. One of the most simple forms of power is just 2, then switch it to 4, then switch it to 6. It's just people. It's just like togetherness. That's power. That's all you need. We seen the amount of power. We seen the power of the black dollar when freaking Popeyes went viral. That's the power of the black dollar. Now imagine we just put that energy into like our communities, and we would have a whole community center that's open from like 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have somewhere people to go, since people don't really have much to do this generation. That's the only problem with this. People don't really have much to do. And like you saw when the protests came out, you saw people coming out of quarantine for the first time in months, having something to do, using that energy, and they're saying, yo, haven't been out, bro. This is the only thing, the first time they've been out. It was just so powerful. It brought a tear to my eye, honestly.
And before we go, what do you hope that people can take away from your documentary?
I hope they could take away the reality, just reality. And I hope they could take away inspiration. Like the leaders, like, look at how young those leaders were. I just want to show the leadership, how they were preaching like how Malcolm X preached back then. And you gotta understand, he got killed for talking like that. You feel me? He got killed for talking like that. And we seen these young women, these young men doing the same exact thing. And like, if I were to have like my mom like see that and like, no, have someone that lived through that age look at this, it's like they'll be like, yo, back then you could not do that. Like that's like dangerous. And I want them to see like what happens when you. I want them to see what happens when you realize there's nothing to be afraid of.
Thank you for that. And where can people follow your work and see the film again?
People can see the film on YouTube. Just type in Peaceful Protest NYC. My YouTube account is Ness, just like capital Ness with a period. And yeah, how you will see my work, you will know my style and you will know my attitude. That's my goal. You will know who it is already.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing more about your documentary.
Thank you.
Again, folks, you can follow Ness on Instagram at Ness the Creator, and you can see his film on YouTube by typing in Peaceful Protest NYC under the account Ness. Check out this trailer of the film, and we'll be right back.
We're not going nowhere at no 8 o'clock. All you got was 8,000. You said 8, we said 8,000. You heard?
You don't get to take away my space because of the color of my skin. I'm taking my space back. This is a reclamation of me. You will not stop me. You will not stop us.
They tried this 2015, and that's the joke. Take my Pepsi now. Let's make some peace. Take my
Welcome back. Staying fit throughout the pandemic has proven to be a challenge for many people due to ongoing gym shutdowns and also a lack of motivation. Local running crew Bronx Soul is inviting Bronxites to stay active, get some sun and fresh air, and learn some Bronx history along the way with their socially distanced running and walking events. Joining us now to share more is Nova Church, one of the captains at Bronx Soul. Nova, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. The first thing, for people who are not familiar, please tell us more about Bronx Soul, your mission, and when you were founded.
So Bronx Soul came into existence in September of 2016. And the idea behind Bronx Soul was to have a running group based here in the Bronx, because there wasn't too many groups at that time that exist in the community, for the community, for free. So we wanted to come together and do this. So I jumped in maybe a few months into the beginning of Bronx Soul. And basically the idea was to get people from the community active, running, understanding health, and also get in touch with the community that we live in on a deeper level, because we run through the community all the time and there's a lot of history here. So the founders, which is Justin Mache and Pedro Rivera, when they got together, they're big history guys. So they connected the health with the actual history, and so people can actually socialize and learn about their environment as we move through it. And yeah, I when I heard about them, I jumped on board and I was like, I'm with you guys 100%, whatever you need. So yeah, that's basically the idea. And yeah.
I think that's really dope and unique, you know, to have run through the blocks in the Bronx and also discuss the history behind this. So it's dope what you guys are doing. So I know that you guys have been running since 2016 together, but, you know, through COVID-19, a lot of changes has happened.
Yes.
How have runs and walks changed during this past few months for Bronx Soul?
Well, we canceled all running activities. We didn't know what was what, you know, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, and it's wear a mask, and it's like, oh, then we really can't be congregating in the way that we have in the past. So just for health reasons and to keep everybody's health number one, because that's basically why we exist in the first place, we decided to just cancel everything. We did do some give backs, like we raised money and donated pieces to, I think, almost every Bronx hospital during when at the height when, you know, when a lot of nurses and hospital staff were being just bombarded with the number of COVID patients. But as recent as June, we decided, okay, maybe we could start getting people moving in the smartest way possible. And so we've been back, not how we was before, but with all of the precautions, you know, wear a mask, 6 feet. It doesn't matter if we outside, we have to respect each other and all the other members and their safety. And yeah, so we've been back moving and at a limited capacity through Eventbrite. We have people come out, but once we full. You know, people show up. We tell them, look, we have enough members out here. We can't entertain that much more for safety reasons. You know, you could trail behind us. You could go run across the street, you know, and have a little FOMO, you know. But yeah, we've been back trying to figure out how we can continue under this COVID umbrella, you know.
And now, you know, when we talk about the coronavirus, a lot of us have kind of like lost motivation, as I said in the beginning, to like stay fit and like go out.
Yeah.
We're afraid. Many people are still afraid to go outside. But can you share the importance of staying active, especially during these times where it may be tough to find that motivation?
Yes, it is. You know, a lot of people say I gained so much weight since this time. A lot of people haven't been working. They've been home, trying to stay safe and not moving around. What happens? You're gonna gain weight. It's like it's science, you know. But it's vital to stay active in this time, because you know, the mind and the body are connected through social activities. And before the pandemic hit, especially specific to the Bronx, we're the unhealthiest county out of 62 counties. That's why we have the Not 62 movement, hashtag Not 62. So we was already in bad shape before the pandemic hit, and it had to do with health. It had to do with people not exercising, food deserts here in the Bronx, not having access to the right foods. The list goes on and on and on why we're number 62. It's not by coincidence, it's almost pretty much by design. So it's up to people to understand why we're fighting and we're trying to battle this COVID, this this destroyer of worlds, the thing that we need to really understand most is that if we are at the best health that we can be, at the best mental place that we can be, we can make it through this better. Not unscathed, you know, we're gonna have to dust off our shoulders, but at least it's not gonna, you know, for the most part, it won't take us down to our knees. And like I said, before this happened, health was already an issue in our borough. So now I think people need to really take stock, take ownership of where they are right now in their life, and understand you gotta get healthy. You gotta maintain your health. You gotta put the right stuff in your system to boost your immune system. You know, you're gonna have to understand where your body is at right now, specific to yourself. And then you're gonna have to develop a system to fight and to stay in the fight. And right now it's harder than ever. So now we have to fight even harder. So I would suggest to people trying to stay active, trying to stay motivated, find an accountability partner. Find someone else who's in the same boat as you and come up with some challenges for each other and hold each other accountable. You could do that in most fitness environments. You see it amplified through running and the running community, because we're behind the next person. Like, come on, you gotta finish strong. You're high-fiving, you're cheering. Well, we're not high-fiving right now, we're elbowing. But you know, you support each other. So that energy we have to utilize more often than just in those situations in overall. So it's sharing information, it's holding each other, checking in on each other, seeing where people are mentally, yeah, go for a walk, go for a bike ride. There's a lot of virtual stuff happening right now for free online. You know, if you reach out to the right people, you'll find it. And you'll have other people in groups that will be getting healthy or staying healthy like you. And that's what's important, keeping that around you. And, you know, just keeping the standard to how you living and how your peoples are living. And then they'll hopefully do the same for you, you know.
Great motivating words. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Bronx is always making it their mission to share these resources and educational posts and all that social media. I really love how you guys engage with your followers online as well. So just a reminder to our Bronxites, we have a lot of great green spaces in the Bronx. We have a lot of big parks, beautiful parks we can go out to, but you can also work at home. And I know you guys have also made that your mission to say, you know, just get moving at home. Don't stay on the couch. Don't stay in bed.
Wherever you're comfortable at.
And aside from getting a good workout in during your runs, Bronx also provides some Bronx history, as we said earlier, along the way. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and the importance of doing that during your runs?
Yeah, so me, born and raised in the Bronx my whole life, grew up on Mount Hope Place, Grand Concourse, Tremont area, people know, BX, you know. So growing up here in the Bronx, I love to be a Bronxite. I love to claim hip hop and things like that, you know, Bronx culture, you know. But through Bronx Soul, I learned I wasn't appreciating my borough as much as I should. And that's because we do a lot of history. We learn about all kinds of things, stuff that was maybe developed here, like the Capitol Dome. We made the Capitol Dome. You know, we should have pride in that and where we come from, and certain things that we can pull back from our own community could actually generate some of the energy. Hip hop. What was it? Last week, 2 weeks ago, we celebrated the anniversary of hip hop, and it was beautiful because it landed on a day where we had a Bronx Soul Run. So we actually ran to 1520 Cedric. And we took a picture on Hip Hop, Hip Hop Place Boulevard? Oh, man. Boulevard. I should not mess that up. But yeah, so we went, we visited history in our own backyard. And it goes not just back to the hip hop, it goes back to the Dutch, it goes back to when we was North New York and not the Bronx. It goes back into rezoning certain numbering some neighborhoods. as the trade. This is so much history here. Even if you go by Mount Haven, you have streets that used to be rivers. There was canals, so boats used to come through. Like to see what's there now and to hear or see pictures, it kind of makes it like, wow, a lot of stuff has happened here, and it makes you kind of appreciate the history and the culture that we have now, and it makes you want to protect it. It makes you want to keep it clean, like you know, learning about maybe some of these parks, and then we're running through them. We're connecting with these neighborhoods in these areas, and now we have a higher respect for it. Absolutely. And growing up, we didn't, you know, hoodlum kids, you know, you got your rapper, you throw it on the ground, and you got the elder in the community like, hey, boy, what you doing? And it's like, you have no respect. It's like, what do you mean, you know? But as I got older, especially now, I really appreciate more than ever the history of the borough. And I love that we could share it with people week after week. So shout out to Pedro and Justin for designing, because now I have a higher appreciation for all of this. Yeah.
And you know, if anybody's tuning in right now, you can join Bronx Soul to learn about these historical areas in the Bronx, and also enjoy a walk or a run. It's for anyone, right?
Anyone. Any fitness level. We have walk, run, we got different captains to lead you through the community. And it's a great way to just connect with the community. People see us, they cheer us on when we're running through. Kids want to jump in and run with us. That's my favorite part, because we get to influence them in a healthy way. Where you guys running? It's like exercise. They're like, really? Like, yeah, you guys like to run when you play, right? This is grown folks play. We get to, you know, exercise and run and socialize and learn some things out here. But when kids join us, that's literally the best part. Yeah.
Beautiful thing. Now, before we go, how can people find out when runs happen? How can people participate and stay in touch with Bronx Soul?
So we have an Eventbrite. So you can go on Eventbrite, look up Bronx Soul, and you have to sign up for Tuesdays. I believe it's Sunday night. But when you sign up, you got to sign up quick, because we have a limited amount of people that we can entertain every week. So be one of the first people to sign up to guarantee your slot. But definitely follow us on Instagram at Bronx Soul, and make sure you look at the stories, because in the stories we share a lot of information about what's going on in the community, whether it be park cleanups, whether it be about you know, some of the community gardens. We just what's so beautiful about Bronx Soul is that we're connected with so many other organizations and groups in the borough, that as we find out information, we share that information, and it makes the network even that much tighter, closer, and easier to access information. So please follow us at Bronx Soul and check out the stories, and make sure you leave some comments and all of that good stuff too, because we continue to have dialogue with our community members.
Where it's all about community with Bronx Soul. Thank you for joining us, Nova. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having this platform. Health is wealth. Not 62. Yeah, blessings.
Now, again, folks, you can find out about future run events and stay connected by following at Bronx Soul on all social media. That's all for our show today. Thank you for tuning in to BXRx. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, wishing you and your family safety and wellness now and always.